Welcome to the present segment, students. This is on To Autumn, Keats's Ode, and we are about to do the third and the final stanza of the poem. I'll be reading the stanza first, and then we will do it line by line. Where are the songs of spring? Aye, where are they? Think not of them, thou hast thy music too. While barred clouds bloom the soft-dying day and touch the stubble plains with rosy hue, then in a wailing choir the small gnats moan among the river shallows, borne aloft or sinking as the light wind leaves or dies, and full-grown lambs loud bleat from hilly mown, hedge crickets sing, and now with treble soft, the red-breast whistles from a garden cropped, and gathering swallows twitter in the skies. Now, we have seen that in the first stanza, Keats represents late summer, late spring, and in the second stanza he represents mid-autumn. In the third he represents late autumn, the terminal part of autumn, in the part that we are going to do today. The second stanza, as you remember, began with, it carried on the apostrophe, but it began with a rhetorical question or an interrogation. Who hath not seen thee oft amid thy store? If you remember properly, then a rhetorical question or an interrogation is a figure of speech in which the answer is implied in the question itself. The answer in the question at the beginning of the second stanza would have been, many people have seen you in such and such places. Now, similarly, this stanza, the stanza under study in the present segment, begins with a set of rhetorical questions, in fact two rhetorical questions, the latter emphasizing the former. Where are the songs of spring? Aye, where are they? If the answer to the earlier rhetorical question, with which stanza 2 begins, was positive, here the answer is negative. The implied answer, of course. Where are the songs of spring? Aye, where are they? Suggests that the songs of spring cannot be heard anymore. Spring has gone away. It has gone by. Where are the songs of spring? Aye, where are they? Think not of them. But at the next moment you can see the poet reconciling himself with the present state. Think not of them, thou hast thy music too. Of course, the beauty of late autumn cannot ever be compared with that of summer or spring. But at the same time, one must remember that one has to be satisfied, one has to accept the present state of things. There's no point in thinking about something that's past, that's gone. You can see therefore a kind of a progression in Keats. In the Grecian Ode, he is so occupied with something that is past. Here he feels that there's no point in thinking about it. Let's enjoy the present comforts. Let's enjoy the beauty that is right here and now. Think not of them, thou hast thy music too. Don't think of the beauties of summer. autumn has its own beauty. While bird clouds bloom the soft dying day and touch the stubble plains with rosy hue, the bird clouds are the clouds that look like bars in the sky. It's very difficult to describe. It looks like fleece. In Bengali we call it peja tulor moto, the kind of cloud that we see in the autumn over here as well. In the season of Sharot, as we say in Bengali. So, as the sky is blooming with that, is coming to describe the beauties of autumn. As the sky is blooming with bar clouds, the soft dying day, the day which is slowly descending into darkness, all of this somehow suggesting the end of life and the slow progression of life towards death. And touch the stubble plains with rosy hue. Look at the beautiful image. The stubble plains are plains full of stumps that are left after the harvesting has been done. And it becomes, of course, it looks very rough, but particularly in the evening, when the light is rosy, it looks imaginative. And that's what he's talking about. And touch the stubble plains with rosy hue. Then in a well-full choir the small gnats moan among the river shallows, borne aloft or singing as the light wind leaves or dies. Then in a well-full choir, he makes a similar reference to well-full gnats in Endymion, his incomplete poem. Then in a well-full choir the small gnats moan. What's a choir? A group of singers. And they are singing. And their song is like the gnats, the insects of the night. And their songs are like seeming like a kind of a dirge, a kind of a song that's sad, and they are singing together. It's wailing, lamenting. Among the river shallows, shallows are actually willow-like trees which bend into the river. Again, Keats is alluding to the weeping willow, a very well-known image in romantic literature, always associated with grief and loss. And the small gnats, what are they doing? They are mourning, they are wailing and mourning, they are singing a dirge, they are lamenting among the river shallows borne aloft. And the vegetation by the river, that particular vegetation of willow trees by the river, that is like the hair of the winnowing girl being of the harvesting girl, which was being lifted and lowered by the winnowing wind in stanza 2. Here also it's being lifted and lowered by the wind. And what wind? The light wind lives or dies, depending on whether the light wind is blowing or not blowing. So images of death, images of mourning, of wailing. See, dying is used, the death image is used at two places. Of course, associated with nature, soft dying day and dies, all these abound in this particular stanza. And full-grown lambs loud bleat from hilly bone, hedge crickets sing, And now with treble soft, the red breast whistles from a garden cropped, and gathering swallows twitter in the skies. See, it brings about a kind of a descent of the night, and somehow presaging the death of the poet. Full-grown lambs is significant over here. What are full-grown lambs called? Sheep. This doesn't call it a sheep because it's not they are not fully mature. They have not become sheep. Winter has not come yet. They are still lamb, but they have grown to maturity. This image of the full-grown lamb somehow suggests an image of, you see, still something left of the final maturation. Remember that the kids is celebrating the season of autumn over here, not the onset of winter. Loud bleat from the hilly bone, hedge crickets sing. Hedges are narrow boundaries made with trees. You see a lot of them in modern gardens, particularly in Shantiniketan, if you go there. And crickets are what we call in Bengali jhiji poka. Hedge crickets sing and the crickets start singing. So you can see that the night is descending increasingly. And now with treble soft, the red breast whistles from a garden cropped. Soft treble. Treble is no doubt high pitch. But even that treble, is a musical term which means high pitch. But even that treble is soft. And soft, in fact, I told you, was a kind of a favorite word for kids. And gathering swallows twitter in the skies. It's time for them to go home. So you can see the final stanza brings all the images of conclusion, or coming close to the conclusion, and death. What do these images suggest? The first stanza was mostly full of tactile images. The second stanza, as I told you, of visual and olfactory images. Look at the third stanza. Wailful choir, moan. The lambs bleat. The hedge crickets sing. What are these images? These are auditory images. So, read through this poem and tell me if you have any difficulty in understanding in the comment part of this video. We'll be doing a little bit on the poem's form, and we'll see how, like Ode on Melancholy, it's divided, as I've told you, into 3 stanzas, and I'm not going to tell you about the thematic division in the stanzas because I've already told you about it, that it talks about the 3 phases of the autumn season corresponding to the concluding phases of the day as well as human life. Each of the stanzas are, curiously enough, 11 lines, have 11 lines each. And as you would expect, the rhyme scheme is variable over here as well. We had calculated the rhyme scheme meticulously when we did the Grecian Urn ode with you. If you look at the first stanza, then the rhyme scheme, in the first 4 lines of each stanza, the rhyme scheme is uniformly maintained. For instance, the first 4 lines of the first stanza, that of the second and that of the third stanza, the rhyme scheme is AB, AB. Fruitfulness, rhyming with blaze, sun, rhyming with run. But as you go to the how many lines are left? 4 lines. So therefore 7 lines are left. 11 line stanza. So if you go to the rest 7 lines, the rhyme scheme is CDE, CDCCE. It is CDE, CDCCE. In the second stanza, the rhyme scheme of the first 4 lines are just the same, AB, AB. But when it comes to the last 7 lines, it is CDE, CDDE, CDE, CDDE. So you can very well understand that there are variations in the rhyme scheme. In case of the last stanza, it just follows that of the second stanza. There is no variation, but the second stanza is different from, particularly the second part of the second stanza, right from the 5th line, is different from the second part of the first stanza. If we can actually divide it into parts, thematically it does not lend itself to such division, but structurally we can. The entire ode is written in iambic pentameter. If you know, then it's 10 syllabic lines with the accent coming on every second syllable. And as I've told you, this is one of the most sensitive and most peaceful of Keats's odes. In the other odes, he contrasts them with the other idyllic situations, like that of art in Grishana ode, or that of imaginative transportation in the Nightingale ode. But in this ode in particular, he is completely coming to terms with the spirit of autumn. The dominant mood is that of acceptance. With this, we end our assignment of Keats's odes. We'll do something new the next segment. Meanwhile, if you have any question, you can put it in the in the comment part of the video, so that I'm able to answer them in the next video segment. Thank you, students.